Thank
We have to start on the right.
We have You're right.
Yes.
I just wanted to warn you, that chicken behind you does not bite. But,
Yeah.
the thing I hear about terrorism, and you know, we've got plenty of that going on. What do you? Don't you feel like we've got some spies here, maybe? That we might have a few people from Russia or China over here trying to stir up some terrorism? I mean, we have a lot of stuff going on at the border that we don't even know what's coming across there. You know, I'm more concerned about the terroristic threats because, I mean, after all, we do have these mosques in all our cities now, and they all communicate together, and that's just what they did to Europe and pretty much have taken it over.
Yeah, I gave a presentation at our Lutheran pastor conference for our district a while back, and I talked about Islam in Georgia. Should have probably pulled some of that for this, but I didn't, sorry. I talked about the mosque growth in Georgia, and like for instance, are you guys from Dalton? There's that big mosque up in Dalton that's been built recently. Yeah, Dalton. As I was driving here this morning, a woman and a man, two women wearing hijabs, pulled out next to me. So it's pretty interesting. When I moved to Georgia, my wife and I moved here in 1999. We first lived in Johns Creek before it was Johns Creek, then we moved out to Cherokee. And you never used to see people in hijabs, and now it's a regular occurrence. I saw a woman, I live up near Hickory Flat, the Kroger, Hickory Flat, big Kroger up there. I have seen a woman in there in a full burqa. I mean, everything covered except for her face, total black. So anyway, I'm not worried so much about the Russians and the Chinese, which probably makes me guilty of collusion. But
Well, you're president, nothing else.
yeah. But a few years ago, I did some work for special operations on the southern border, and back then, there's a fairly large, in real terms, fairly large numbers of people coming across the border from the Middle East, from different Middle Eastern countries that just disappear in the population. Now, most of them are probably harmless, but you know, if I were Iran, if I were ISIS, I would certainly be bringing people in through the southern border.
Hey, they're hearing you right now after that video she's taking.
So that's more what I'm concerned about. I'm not so worried about the Chinese as I am the people that actually, you know, have a track record of killing Americans. Yeah. Yeah.
Since I'm on this side of the table, some 13 or so years ago, at a Cobb breakfast, I asked Phil Gingrich in a public forum, said, what would happen if it were discovered that the United States government was funding the building of some 1,000 churches across the United States after they had been built? Would they be torn down, have to be turned into something else? Certainly couldn't allow them to stand with the so-called separation of church and state. What would happen? And Phil said, well, I don't really know. Would you do some research on that and send me a paper, Michael? Well, I said, Phil, it's not the United States government doing it. It's been disclosed, public knowledge, that Saudi Arabia has funded the building of 1,000 mosques across the United States. Now, how is it that a foreign government is allowed to build mosques, religious temples, political temples in the United States when it's against our Constitution and government? It does not allow this practice. And will the government then take a position to destroy those facilities, churches, mosques, funded by a foreign government?
Do you need an answer?
His answer was a non-answer.
Yeah.
Well, the answer is, as long as they got the oil, they're going to be allowed to do what they want to do.
This is true. Saudi Arabia exports two things, oil and terrorists. That's the two things they export. But let me say something on that, Michael. That's a good point. The flip side of that is, particularly under the Obama administration, I honestly, now that this has been brought up, I'm going to see if this is still going on. Under the Obama administration, they were funding, the Obama administration, State Department was funding mosques to be built in foreign countries. The United States government was under the guise of the United States Aid for International Development and these other, philanthropic organizations that we.
I remember that.
Yeah, they were building mosques in countries or helping rebuild destroyed mosques.
Oh, they were rebuilding them.
Yes, not ones, but it wasn't just that, they were actually building them some places too, in Africa particularly. But yes, ostensibly because we had destroyed them, although usually it wasn't that we had destroyed them, because we don't
accused
use
of
that
destroying.
Yes, so totally unconstitutional, totally violation of the U.S. Constitution for the U.S. government to do that, but, when did that ever stop Obama? So.
Any other questions on, yes?
Yes,
Deb?
You had talked about Saudi Arabia and our relationship with them. It was always my understanding that the reason why we had our relationship was because of the oil that we needed from them. I mean, it was just said the other day that we are now energy independent. So based on the fact that they are a terrorist, nation, how would they?
Why?
Well, why would they still be our friend?
First of all, Hannity's not right that we're energy independent. We are now the world's largest producer of oil. We are also the world's largest user of oil, although China may be right there with us to pass us. We produce more oil than anybody, but we also use a lot of oil. So we don't produce enough oil for our own needs.
Well, that's not what I heard yesterday from the administration.
Okay, well, then I will be greatly surprised if that's the case, because the last I heard, we were still using oil when we
Well,
produced.
we were selling it now, we're exporting it.
Well, no, there's a
But
difference
that's-
between
No,
oil
no,
and natural
that's-
gas. Just,
We don't talk across the
Well, I
table.
know, but I'm just-
No, you don't talk across the table.
okay, I'll leave
Oh,
it,
we'll
because
take-
I can't stand
we'll
not
take
having to
notes.
clarify.
Well, you have your
I
check.
think I know what she's gonna say.
Yeah.
We do export oil, but then we import oil from other people, because it's cheaper for us to sell oil to some people than buy it from somewhere else.
Exactly.
Yes. So anyway, but that aside,
Our
why
relationship, yeah.
Saudi Arabia? Well, initially, but it's not just oil, however, all right? And first of all, though, I would not say Saudi Arabia is a terrorist country, because they're not. Again, politically, they go after terrorists. There is no greater enemy in the eyes of ISIS than Saudi Arabia. They hate each other, okay? They hate each other. Politically, they don't agree, all right? Religiously, they may agree. Politically, they don't. You have to look back to what happened. Our main ally in the Middle East, after World War II, anybody know who they were? Turkey and Iran. Those were our main allies in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia was kind of an afterthought. FDR got along with them for different reasons, but our main allies in the Middle East were Turkey and Iran. Well, Iran's now our major enemy in the Middle East, and this happened, of course, in 77, 78, or 78, 79 with the revolution. Turkey is still a NATO ally on paper, but the president of Turkey is pretty anti-American, right? And seems to want to bring back the Ottoman Empire, which actually I always tell my Arab friends probably wouldn't be a bad idea, because when the Turks were in charge, the Arabs behaved themselves, which always really annoys my Arab friends. Anyway, so basically, it's because of shifting geopolitical things, okay? We don't have Iran as an ally anymore. Turkey is really, are they our ally? I'm not sure. I'm not even sure they should be in NATO. They probably should be kicked out. Our ally is Israel, and we have to have somebody. Oil is part of it, yes, but I think we would probably be allies with Saudi Arabia if they didn't have oil, because you have to have an ally in the middle of the Arab world,
Okay.
and that's the big reason, I think.
But why would they be our friend though?
Because they hate the Iranians. They are scared to death of Iran.
So
Iran
they
has.
depend on us to maybe defend them?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's
Iran
what
has,
I noticed.
Iran has 80 million people. Saudi Arabia has 20 million.
Because they don't have a military, do
Yeah,
they?
they do, but not a very large
Yeah,
one.
right.
Yeah, I mean, nothing like Iran. Iran has 80 million people, and so they're scared of Iran, especially if Iran gets nukes. So,
Paul, I know you have a question.
No, well,
I'm not answering any questions about the Constitution.
no.
Maybe the
Well, good.
Iranian,
I'll
the
let-
Iranian Constitution, I'm good on.
Oh, really? Well, then now you and I need to sit down and have a talk. But Mike, in response to your query earlier, the constitutional prohibition as to church and state does not apply to contributors, even though they are governments of foreign nations. And to your comment about the Ottomans behaving themselves, yeah, they did.
No,
after-
they made the Arabs behave themselves.
Well, after the Battle of Malta. They figured out they weren't the baddest boys on the
Well, but
block.
they were for about 400 years.
Oh, they were.
Yep.
And yes, I did have a question.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that okay?
Now old age is set in and I'm having a senior moment. I'll pass to
It
the
happens
next
all the time.
one.
It'll come back to you.
So,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I'm interested in your title,
Uh,
Child with One Eye.
Uh-huh.
If he wasn't just one eye, I mean, kind of said some of those things, excuse me. So what would be the other eye? What would he have?
He would say
to
Islamic
perceive?
fundamentalism is the problem, not radical Islamist terrorism,
Oh.
because radical and Islamist makes no bloody sense.
Gotcha.
Right? He would just say Islamic terrorism is the problem.
Okay.
Or Islamic fundamentalism, because basically that's what that is. And, you know, as long as we keep dancing around this, pretending it's not true, and pretending that it's some perversion of Islam, we're never going to grapple with the issue. I would sit down with the Saudis and say, I mean, maybe you do it behind doors, you don't do it in press conference, and say, you guys got a problem, you know? You guys got a problem. Look, you know, Trump would say, I love your religion, it's beautiful, lovely, I love it, it's beautiful. But, you know, the guy that started your religion beheaded people. And people that follow your religion behead people. So why don't you clean that mess up?
That's why we like him.
He
I
says
mean,
it as it
I
is.
was originally, I voted for Ted Cruz in the primary. My wife talked me into voting for Trump, and I'm glad I did.
Next.
Does that answer your question? Yeah, that's my thing.
Yeah,
And maybe
okay.
it's a, you know, sort of monomaniacal on my part, but this is, I think, the root of the problem. Yes, sir. Ma'am, who's up? Who's up first? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you were talking way back about people coming across the border and the white population and dark and this, and it kind of set me back.
Well, I was actually making fun of the left for their obsession with
Well-
it, yes.
You know, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I read an interesting article that white changes. And he presented points I hadn't thought about is, you know, there was a time where Irish were not considered white, or Italians were not considered white. And he says you have to also consider, we are now multi-ethnic, multicultural, because you have intermarriage. So
Yeah.
so-called white is changing. And
I always tell my students in world history classes, there's one human race. It's called Homo sapiens sapiens.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter what the skin color differences or you know what your eyes look like or
That's
something
true.
are just are almost so insignificant. Now there are differences between groups, like for instance, people of African descent tend to get sickle cell anemia.
Yeah.
You know, people of East Asian descent are predominantly lactose intolerant. There are differences like that. But in terms, my point was that about the religion thing. The left
Yeah.
is just obsessed with this saying that Christianity is white religion. I'm like, really? I don't know. I'm Lutheran. We have two seminaries in my denomination, Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. One's in St. Louis and one's in Fort Wayne, Indiana. A few years ago, I was invited to speak in St. Louis. And I spoke with the guy that was head of missionary evangelism and ethnic ministry, who was from West Africa. He's a Lutheran from West Africa. Almost everybody in the class that I spoke to was black African Christians. Does the media not get this?
No.
My favorite
Who
saying
doesn't get it?
is the issue is never the issue. You know, so that's how when people talk, this is what I'm looking at. The issue is never the issue. The issue isn't white and black. And I think this was kind of what the guy was getting to is white is changing, and so you're going after this group who's intermarrying.
But does that mean you only 50% go after Obama?
Well, that's just it. Everything, it's
It's
not
goofy.
white and black.
It's goofy.
It's really your thinking process and what you believe.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically
And
for the
you're
left.
using color,
Yes,
race,
as a wedge issue.
as,
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
you're using this to promote something that's not true.
Yes.
Because it's not the skin, the pigment,
Right.
it's really what you believe. So you're using a narrative
Right. Yes.
to,
To put down whites.
And I'm just saying, all I'm doing is, well, and to put down Christianity. What I'm trying to do, because Christianity is a white religion. You know, so therefore everybody in it has a hood and a, you know,
Well,
gloves
white
and a cake.
privilege and
It's
all that
ridiculous.
stuff.
You know,
well,
again.
the numbers are not that it's white Christian. Numerically, it is not a white religion.
No, of course not. That's my point. That's my point. So to be, just kind of to make you aware of this incredibly false narrative. But again, I don't think it's primarily a racial thing.
It's not.
It's primarily, it's because many in the media despise Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's an article of faith on the left, goes back to the Enlightenment with Voltaire, and the Enlightenment idea is that the problem, the oppressor in Europe, particularly in France, is who? The Catholic Church. The idea is that the church is the oppressive structure, all right? Then this gets like, you know, spiced up by Marx in the 19th and 20th century, Marx in the 19th century, and then this becomes part of the left's ideological belief system. You know, Marx, of course, hated religion in general, Christianity in particular. This becomes has become very prominent in the left and Democratic Party. Plus, you look, I just saw some data the other day, I looked at this. You know, why did Hillary and Obama both tweet about pity for Easter worshipers after the Sri Lankan bombings instead of, well, I think we're called Christians, you know? Why wouldn't they say that? I mean, I looked at those tweets and I put them up on social media. Both Obama and Hillary, after the Christchurch killings at the mosque, right? We stand with Muslims, right? We stand with the Muslim world. We condemn Islamophobia. 350 Christians are killed, far more than were killed in the mosque. We feel bad for the Easter worshipers.
Yeah.
So my wife said, well, they must have the same PR firm. I'm sure they probably do, because certainly Hillary didn't think for herself. But basically, why do they do that? Well, this data that I'm referring to, I saw this a few weeks ago, I think it was Pew or where it was from, that the largest single cohort now of the Democrat Party, belief system-wise, is atheist/no religion.
Right.
Now, there are more Christians if you add up like evangelicals and Catholics and such, but not by much. Something like about 30% of the Democrat Party says, and again, this is poll data, this is not, you know, Eric Erickson making stuff up, sorry. I don't like Eric Erickson, I'm sorry. I'm probably the only person
Didn't
in
they
this
try
room.
to take the God thing
Anyway,
over their platform?
Deborah?
But about 30% of Democrats say they don't have any religion at all. You have to pander to that base if you are a Democrat leader. You have to. This is why you see a lot, unfortunately, and it's not good for the country, because basically the Democrat Party has become the party of people who don't believe in God, and the Republican Party has become even more the party of, you know, Christians. That's really where we're at. But interestingly enough, the Muslims are over here with a party that don't believe in God for some strange reason. Anyway, although if Muslims ever take power, the people that don't believe in God will be the first ones on the block.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's really bad for the country because we have become polarized into two major parties. One's religious and one's not religious, and that's not good for the country. That just increases polarization, but I don't know what you do about it. So,
Paul? I'm sorry.
I'm bored.
I saw Paul Tan go up.
Yeah, well, all of that.
I played a trick on Mike. I blew his
did you have something to
concentration.
say?
I want to thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for speaking at our level. I read your the piece that Michael linked to, and I thought, you know, I've got a good vocabulary.
Which
but
one
I
was
can't
that?
keep up with this gentleman.
Which one did you link to?
That's the announcement that you sent out.
Well, I don't remember what it was. What?
Oh, they just setting in.
It's setting in. Oh, yeah, that's my first article for the stream. I reviewed that book.
There you go.
You know Tommy Robinson, who's the pseudonym for the British nationalist fellow who's very against Islamic immigration into England. He and another guy wrote a
Tim,
book.
please give the link for the camera.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it is stream.org/Muhammad-Quran-book-Amazon-won't-let-you-buy.
Never mind.
Just go to the stream.org and look up my name and you will find my articles. That was the first article I wrote for them about a month ago. And basically I looked at this book, I read this book, and it basically takes the Quran and puts it in correct chronological order, which it's not if you read the Quran, and then lays out why it's a dangerous book, because it tells people to wage jihad against non-Muslims, and it's a dangerous book. But the problem was, of course, Amazon has banned it. Not the Quran banned Tom Robinson's book. Amazon banned it, Books A Million banned it, and what's the other one? Barnes & Noble, because they all do what Amazon does. It's ridiculous.
What's his last name?
Tommy Robinson. But it's basically, I mean, I say the same thing in my books. I'm just not, you know, as belligerent as Tommy Robinson, so my books don't get banned. Yeah, so hang on, I think he remembered what he was going to ask me.
Yes,
Yes,
I
sir.
did. I don't know if you're into characterizing books, but since you mentioned.
Just the ones I read.
Since you mentioned Amazon, Would you characterize the Quran as a manual of political dogma?
I would say it is a manual of religious and political dogma. Is this that argument about Islam's not a religion?
Yeah.
No, sorry, Islam's a religion.
What's your
Islam is a
definition of a
religion. It is-
religion?
The sociological definition that's been around for a long time, which is there's a higher power, there's an afterlife, there's a canon of holy texts, there's some sort of prophet, there's usually a heaven and a hell. That's a religion. Islam has all of that. Is it political? Yes. It's the most political religion on the face of the earth.
Most
It's also,
political.
yes, it's the most political religion on the face of the earth. It's also, I think, safe to say, the most violent religion on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
But it's still a religion.
Okay.
All right. Yes. This is one of the things that some lady at the Cherokee Tea Party went after me for. It's not a religion. I'm like, yes, ma'am, it is a religion. Sorry. It's a religion. It has all the sociological characteristics of religion. It's a dangerous religion. It's a violent religion. It's a political religion, but it's still a religion. Yes, ma'am.
So, I don't know if people realize this, but Twitter is really 90% the left.
Oh, it's probably higher than that.
Or maybe, okay, I was giving.
You're being generous.
Yes, so therefore, I believe that Easter worshipers, both of them use a Democrat talking point person. I mean, they all somehow funnel into what they're gonna say through I don't know who it is, but there's an organization or there's somebody that they go through, and they don't do their own Twitter and stuff like that. So they pretty much use.
Whereas Trump does, as we know.
Well, we know that Trump does. He's like, I gave him the 10%. I mean, it's going to be higher. Anyway, so we are being, and then the media.
What's narrative? Twitter's
Well,
narrative.
It's a
as she
narrative.
said. Yes,
It's a narrative.
You
And
push
it's
the
the
narrative.
echo chamber, and it's all the socialists and the left. And so then you get this thing, well, Twitter blew up when such and such and such and such. Really? It's like
Even Fox does that.
nobody.
Twitter says, I'm like, Twitter didn't say anything.
Exactly.
People said
exactly.
stuff.
So Twitter has become.
Twitter says nothing. That's like, my computer said.
Well, yeah, so they've been ingenious, if you think about it, in controlling the narrative that way through Twitter, because, like you said, even Fox, Twitter blew up when such and such.
It's
and
a
such.
lot of it's just lazy reporting. My wife
Yeah.
remarks this to me.
That's
They're
what-
too
that's my
lazy to
next
do any
point.
reporting. So, hey, what's on Twitter?
Exactly. That was my next point, is the journalists aren't journalists anymore. All they do is they follow
Very
Twitter
few
and they
of them.
report on that. And so it's an echo chamber, round and around.
And have you ever noticed how they interview? It'll be like, well, blah, blah said blah, blah, your reaction. That's not an interview. Did you do any research and ask a
They
question?
don't do. They're lazy and they don't have
They're
any,
very
I
lazy.
don't think they
I
have.
know,
any
and the
reason.
right's as bad at this as the left, except the right's just lazy. The left is pushing a narrative.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
It's interesting that you talk about Twitter. I read Rush every day, and you get 15 minutes, you get the whole thing. But he talks specifically about Twitter, the percentage, very small percentage of the American
I
population
saw
are on
22%
Twitter.
the other day.
Yes, and they're all on the left. And-
Well, we're
and
not
you're
all.
right, it's
Listen,
an
I'm not on the left, and I'm on Twitter, but-
Predominantly. And as she said, it's an echo chamber, as they quote each other. But he was very good. There were a couple days that he had documentation, how many, what percentage. America is not Twitter.
Well, when you ever hear Rush, like, he will do this, like, this is great how he does this, and they started doing this on Fox. I mean, Tucker Carlson does this too, which he's great. But Rush will say, like, here's the Democrat reaction to something, and he'll do like 13 clips, and they all say the same
Same
thing.
thing.
They all say the same thing. So either they're a bunch of parrots, somebody's sending them the take, or they
Yeah.
just copy each other. It's just ridiculous. Yes, sir.
Don't overlook Project Mockingbird from the CIA, which really is what's driving much of the news, in my humble opinion.
I don't know
Explain
Project
Project
Mockingbird.
You don't know about that?
No.
Oh, started way back when with the CIA, and they're driving the news. They invent the news.
Explain what Project Mockingbird
Yeah.
is, Boyd.
I've
never heard
I
of
don't
this.
know that I can. It's a politically oriented news feed coming out of the CIA. to drive-
Narrative.
Narrative.
To drive narrative?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of that. I'll have to look into that. It's interesting.
Please do, because It's why Rush is able to do the 13 voices saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
But you never find 13 voices on the right saying exactly the same.
Well, no.
Yeah, you'd like to think the CIA is fairly conservative, but I can tell you, I've been up there a few times, and I know some people up there. John Brennan's probably more representative of the CIA.
And he's a Muslim, or an Islamist, I should say.
No, he might be a Muslim.
He changed religion.
Yeah, supposedly, I mean, I've heard this from a number of people up there, he converted to Islam when he was station chief in Riyadh back in the 80s. So, yeah.
Thank you all very much. Tim, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Always.
All right. Yeah.